And we are back. Another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we welcome Olympic gold medal winning snowboarder, cannabis legend, Mr. Ross Rebagliati to the show. How are you today, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you're going to the airport today. Do you like the airport? Like, are you an airport guy in general, or would you prefer to drive places, or does it depend on the distance?
I would rather drive, to be honest. Yeah, I'd rather drive. I don't like the lineups, and I don't like being around a lot of people at once, that type of thing. So yeah, but once I'm there, I can. I don't know. It's been a long time. Like I used to travel to Europe like multiple times a year for the World Cup tour, and yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not in the airports as much as I used to be.
I'll tell you what, man. I was just in London for the Browns game because the Browns played, and I was like, because I got a bunch of buddies in the UK, and I was like, whenever the Browns get to the UK, I'm going to go. So so I stayed in a little place over there, and the flight back, dude, it was ridiculous because it was an exit row, which was fine, but like I'm 6'3", and there was a guy next to me 6'5", and the guy over here was 6'2". I couldn't move the whole time, and that was 7 hours nonstop.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know. And then if you're on the exit row, then you got people like coming by you all the time so they can go to the washroom or whatever. Yeah, it's a hassle.
100%, bro. It's ridiculous, man.
Now in Canada, they have a new thing where you have to upgrade to get a seat that reclines.
Oh, well, it's called basic. They call it because like if you get the standard fare, they used to have like coach, business, and first or whatever. Now it's called like basic economy. So you don't get to pick your seat; you're just wherever. And there's more room. I do the my finger test. I don't have big hands, but if I can go like this and touch each side of the seat, like the back of the seat and the here, then that's really small. Because like on the 130s coming back from Iraq, there was more room than that. So if there's less room than there is on a 130 coming back from the desert, there's something going on with these airlines. And
yeah, that's beat. I don't know if I can avoid flying, I definitely do. That's 100% that way.
100%, man. All right, so the internet tells me you were born and grew up in Vancouver. Like, since you had Canadian radio restrictions, most of your music when you was growing up was basically like Rush or something similar. If not, how did you consume music early on? And what were some of your favorite bands, Canadian and even non-Canadian bands?
Well, I don't know about the restriction side of things, but like we had MTV. So back in the day, it was all like, whatever was on MTV, it was what we were watching and listening to. And, in those days, like we're talking like, I don't know, like in the 80s, it was all like AC/DC and whoever else, Metallica and stuff came out more in, when I was in early high school. But we're, yeah, I mean, it was like Warren G, Snoop Dogg. I listened to a lot of rap in those days. And,
okay,
it was pretty much whatever we could see on MTV.
Okay. That was kind of for me too. And then if like I like the song on MTV, I'd buy the tape or whatnot and go from there. I mean, the music scape, it's weird when you think about it, Ross, because like back then, if we didn't hear it on like a commercial or on MTV, we had no way of knowing what the music would sound like. No, unless it was on the radio or something, And the radio always played the edited version of it. It's just crazy to think about, right?
I know. Yeah, the editing was pretty. Sorry for the seatbelt buzzer sound.
Oh, you're fine, bro. You're fine. Yeah, that was I used to do that all the time because like I go to the store a lot, the gas station, to get papers or whatever, just from the gas, some coffee or whatever. And like half the time, if I'm leaving a message for my buddy, he's like, "You got to put your seatbelt on because the beep."
I know. I have a nice little spot at home where I usually do these podcasts from, where I can sit back and burn one. But this morning was crazy. My son Rocco had a hockey game. He scored 5 goals, and it was a great game. And then headed out to the airport to pick up the wifey from. She just flew back from Toronto, and it was mayhem in Toronto, right? The Blue Jays and the Dodgers.
Oh my goodness! Feel bad for the Blue Jays fans, do they too? But I mean, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And at the end of the day, man. At the end of the day, dude, I'm a Cleveland fan, so there's nothing you could tell me. And I'm 50, or almost 50. So I've I remember the Browns in the 80s. I remember every single thing the Indians did, and I remember 2016. And also I can't give the exact words I want to say because I know your kids are in earshot. But listen, all my
That's okay.
all my friends that are Cubs fans, I'm not really appreciating you constantly sending me the footage of Game 7 from 2016. All right, you stick where the sun don't shine. If you get my thing, I'm sick of it. Okay, so stop messaging me that. My buddy Paul in Chicago, you're the one who does it the most. So stop it. Stop it. All right, now did you get into skiing early and then later snowboarding just because of the area you lived? Or
Yeah,
basically, why didn't you like do the stereotype of what most Canadian kids do, like try out for hockey and then go on? You can't do it on that on television, something like that. What was the deal there?
Yeah, so like I started off in like 81. I started ski racing. I'm 54 too, so we're kind of from the same era.
Okay.
But yeah, I started off ski racing in 81. I ski raced for about 6 or 7 years, and then in 87 I started snowboarding, but that was before snowboarding was even allowed in Canada. And we had to travel down to Washington from British Columbia here, and we went to Mount Baker and did a bunch of snowboarding the year before Canada allowed snowboarding. And then 88 we started seeing like Whistler allowed snowboarding and a couple of other resorts, and then by 89 it was like the full snowboard show. Everywhere you went, you could snowboard at any ski resort. So I had a ski racing background, and then when I got into snowboarding, it was mostly freestyle, and then we were racing on our freestyle boards. But then as things got further along, we started seeing like race specific equipment, and I was more like not interested in what the judges thought about my run, but I competed at a pretty high level in freestyle. Like my first year I was on the World Cup tour, I went, I did the US Open, competed against Sean Palmer and all the big names, Craig Kelly and stuff. But then I specialized in racing. It was just easier for me to go against the clock, and with my ski racing background, it definitely gave me the advantage.
Okay, now what did you? Well, you was talking a little bit about the Sean Palmer stuff and the other stuff. Is there, like when I think of the Olympics, I think of like the half pipe and all that. How did you start? Were you trying to do a little bit of that? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like would that have been your vibe, like the Sean White, half pipe type thing, or what? What was it? You just like the slalom that much better?
Well, it was more of a business decision. Like I had an easier time to win the races than I did to go against guys like Sean White and Sean Palmer and all like the big superstars. And so if it was just me against the clock, then I had a better shot at winning. And I did win my fair share of World Cup races.
Okay. All right, we got a question from the chat. Question for Ross: Blackcomb or Whistler?
I was a Blackcomb guy, only because Blackcomb kind of allowed snowboarding before Whistler did, but then Whistler came on board shortly after that. And we were really kind of at the forefront of snowboarding in Canada at the time, and it was just like a weird dynamic between the skiers, the ski culture, and the snowboard culture.
Is the dynamic between that? Is that more of the? I mean, is it just as simple as the guys who smoke weed and the guys who don't smoke weed, or what's some of the intricacies of this dynamic in your opinion? They would say.
Well, early on, it was a lot about like, the clothes that skiers wore compared to what the snowboarders were wearing back in the 80s. Like skiers were still wearing stretchies and like odd ski gear, and we were kind of wearing like baggy skateboard, kind of like urban, that kind of rap fashion, and it was just like cooler, right? And then of course back in the day, like in the 80s, skis were long and skinny and they didn't work, and snowboards were like short and fat and they ripped up the powder, and it was just a lot easier and a lot more fun to snowboard. Now things have changed. Like the skiers and the snowboarders are wearing the same clothes. now there's fat skis, for powder. So, you measure the two skis together, they're just as wide as a snowboard now, where, that wasn't the case when we first started. So it's really, the two sports have kind of come together in culture. And, now you see in the X Games, like the skiers boosting in the half pipe. And that's 100% invented by snowboarders, and obviously that came from skateboarding. So things have really like progressed with, the ski world. And it's caught up to the snowboard world, and in some ways potentially even surpass it. I mean, it's hard to boost as high on a snowboard as you can on a pair of skis in a half pipe, just due to the fact that the skis have two edges, digging in, and when you land on a snowboard, you just have the one edge. And so on a snowboard, you're digging in way more with that one edge. You can't carry as much speed as the skiers can, because they can, spread that pressure over two edges and carry their speed better. So, but, having said that, there's not a lot of crossover. Like, there aren't too many guys out there that can do both sports. And because I was a ski racer, I still have like skis and powder skis, and I'm up on the hill, snowboarding, and I was coaching, the free ride team here a couple of years ago still. So I'm still in the game, but I've got 3 kids now, and I'm just kind of focusing more on family and getting the kids, out of town and up on the mountain.
Oh, now are your kids, are they into the snow sports? Did they get to pick, or were you like, you're a Rebagliati and you will snowboard? Are you like a real hardcore parent, or are you just like, whatever you want to do, you do? What kind of sports they do?
Yeah, I don't care what sports they want to do. I don't really make them snowboard or ski or anything, but if I can, I like to get them up the hill. It's getting more and more expensive every year to be up there, and it's definitely like a privilege to be able to afford to go skiing and everything. Not everyone can afford it, so it's one of those things where it just is what it is. And I have the big background in skiing and snowboarding, so I kind of feel like it's kind of a nice lifestyle to get out of the city and get up on the mountain. But if they want to ski or snowboard, that doesn't matter to me.
Oh, yeah. All right, we got a question from BC as well. This is my buddy. He lives up in northern British Columbia. He's a really good dude. He says,
Nice.
Favorite brand of snowboard? Do you have one?
Oh yeah, right on. Maybe I didn't hear. What was that last thing?
Oh, I said, what is your favorite brand of snowboard if you have one?
My favorite brand. Well, I rode for Burton Snowboards for a long time, and Craig Kelly, was like my hero growing up, and he's a legend. He passed away in an avalanche about 15 years ago, but yeah, I guess Burton Snowboards, and then there's a couple of other like core brands that I like that are just kind of into free riding, like Nitro Snowboards and whatnot. But my buddy Jeremy Jones, I raced with on the World Cup tour, and now he has Jones snowboards, so I'm a big fan of Jones snowboards and the whole free ride thing. I'm kind of getting more onto the free ride, like backcountry stuff, where you hike up with split boards and stuff like that. So that's kind of, I think, what where I'm gonna focus my attention next will be backcountry.
Well, is that where you get like in a helicopter and you just have the board on your feet and they just kind of drop you and just wherever and you just go down? Is that the free country stuff?
Yeah, that's the free ride stuff. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember being in Alaska in like the early 90s. We literally jumped out of the helicopter because the top of the mountain was so pointy it couldn't even land. And but now, like, it's kind of moving away from helicopters and more towards like snowmobiles and split boards and like literally just hiking. So, the whole lift line thing it's kind of like being at an airport, so I kind of try to avoid that if I can. But, with the family and everything, it's all fun and games. So it is what it is.
Heck yeah. All right. We got a question from BC again. What is the hardest trick in snowboarding to complete? I mean, that's theoretically a 15, 20, spinning around 8 times. But in terms of like tricks, when you did tricks, what was, I mean, it's a very broad question, so take it what you will. What do you think is some of the harder tricks to, maybe a better way to rephrase that question is, what are some of the harder tricks that people see? They're like, oh, that's easy. And it's really a lot harder to do in real life than it looks on TV kind of thing.
Well, I think any of them are like, you can take the most basic trick like a backside method or a stalefish or anything like that, and it looks pretty straightforward when you see it or see somebody do it. But to be able to position yourself with balance and to take off right and to be able to make the move, I mean, they're all a little trickier than they look. Let's put it that way. I mean, just to be able to take air off a jump and stay balanced, and it's not as easy as it looks. The pros really do make it look easy. But like my last year of freestyle was probably 92, and in 92 we weren't allowed to be inverted, so we couldn't do like the backflips and stuff like that. And then by the time the Olympics came in 98, like the Michael Chuck, that was kind of the big trick of the time. It was my buddy Michael Chuck that invented it, and that was like, I think it was like an inverted 540 with a grab or something like that. And by that time I had specialized in racing for already a number of years, and I was quite happy to have done that too, because I didn't want to be like competing against those guys. I mean, Shaun White, for example, he has like a really strong skateboard background. Like I remember in the 80s when he was they called him mini shred. When he was like 7, 8, 9 years old, he was already skating with Tony Hawk in the half pipe. And so when he started snowboarding, he just brought that whole skill set over. And I think in today's pro snowboarding on the freestyle side of things, I think most of those most of those freestyle pros they have a strong skate background. And if you want to compare apples and oranges, skateboarding and snowboarding is just that. Like snowboarding is like 100, maybe even 1,000 times easier than skateboarding. And so if you can skate, ride a pipe, catch air in the bowls, or ollie a foot high and do a kickflip, I mean, you're well on your way to being quite a good snowboarder by that point.
I mean, for snowboarding, you have to have access to snow, so that eliminates quite a bit of the country. I mean,
yeah, it helps if you live in Canada, that's for sure. I mean, there isn't snow everywhere, but there's definitely a lot of ski resorts where I live.
I know I don't think Shredder knew you're Canadian, but this is a good question. How many provinces out of the territories have you been to? And if you remember, how many states have you been to?
Well, I've been to a lot of the snowboard states, like Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Utah, Maine, New York, Alaska. Those are probably primarily the big snowboard states. Vermont, obviously, that's where Burton Snowboards is from. But in Canada, we don't have mountains like all over the country. So we've got big mountains in BC and Alberta, and then there's nothing really until you get out east towards Ontario and Quebec, which is situated right above Vermont and Maine. And then there's some pretty good mountains there, but the big mountains in Canada are Alberta and British Columbia.
Okay. Here's a question from BC. It's about weed. Are you a indica, sativa, or hybrid kind of guy?
I'd kind of go for, well, I used to just call it weed. So back in the day, we didn't really know. Just as long as we had some weed was good. But I think I lean more towards like an indica. But having said that, now like I own a cannabis brand, Ross Gold, and a pre-roll company where we manufacture pre-rolls for other brands. And just with the family and everything going on, it's nice to get like a hybrid where it's not putting you into couch lock, and then you're also not too heady with the sativa, so it just kind of gives you that even keel.
Oh yeah, different times of day, different times of week. Yeah, mornings in the mornings sativas, and nights indicas. I mean, at the end of the day, most of this stuff is pretty much hybrid. Say, like you said with the weed, I don't. I just buy the weed and I smoke it. I don't really think about strain. That's why I don't really. People ask me the strain questions. Like, there's strains I like, but it's like I can't get used to strains because like these dispensaries, they run out so fast, so I can't get used to it because it's never in stock constantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, a lot of the smaller producers, they sell out, and then it takes them 3 months to bang out another crop. So yeah, it's hard to get that consistent strain all the time that you really like, gel with. But like, to be honest, like there's some really good outdoor strains that come in at around 17 to 20%, and it's not like the highest THC that you can get from an indoor strain, but it's functional product. Like you can get through the day on that stuff without getting too deep into for lack of a better word, without like struggling with yourself for the first 20 minutes. And so that's kind of been my forte in the last few years, is growing outdoor. And this year we did 700 outdoor plants that were, it's all going to fresh frozen, and we're going to press it into live rosin. So okay. That's our big crop for this summer. We do have 4 indoor rooms that it's really like top notch BC bud. And yeah, you either have to do a lot of practice to get your tolerance up, or just careful how much you take, because this it's a creeper, man. It'll get you.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny. Because people always, when they smoke, there's only like, I call them, I don't know what their exact percentage is, maybe 5-10%ers, but most people after a couple hits, they're a little bit, they're like, I'm good. But you get that certain percentage of smokers, the proverbial Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson, whatever, guys like us, but they just keep smoking and smoking and smoking, and we get high, but we're never going to be, that's enough. We might get tired and fall asleep, but we're never going to not be smoking weed. I smoke weed like it's cigarettes, dude. I smoke a lot of weed. Do I smoke a little bit too much weed? Probably. But
I was there too, like all day long, big gaggers all day, and barely could even feel it. It was just nice to taste it. But as things kind of progressed, and the kids are getting older, and I'm busier taking them to hockey practice and soccer practice and all that stuff, and also dealing with my 2 companies and all the paperwork, and I found myself not like, my tolerance is just going down more and more every day.
It's funny. My buddy Mick, I was just like I just said, I was just in London, and Mick was telling me about the prices right here. You got fucking 70 pounds for 10 grams. I buy this. We get the shake. I was just looking at it. It's $40 for an ounce, $20 for an ounce, 2 ounces for $25. I mean, it's quite cheap. And so when I was over there smoking the UK weed, because he hooked it up with the UK weed for a little bit, it's whatever. It's like drinking Mick Ultra if you're a complete alcoholic. That's a good comparison. And so I get back to the States, dude. Man, that first 2-3 days, my tolerance was through the floor. I couldn't even move. I was so high just from regular States weed. That's just the difference. It's so funny, man. So funny.
Yeah, the tolerance goes down fast, and even just the flight over to Europe, you'll notice the tolerance is down if you haven't burned one in like 6 or 7 hours. Yeah, you got to be careful.
That's so true, man. Gosh dang, that's hilarious, bro. All right, so how old were you when you first started doing something competitively in snow sports, and how did you do? Was there imagine like a karate kid when you're younger and here's my first tournament. How old were you when you first did like your first ski tournament, or what kind of thing? What's the deal there?
So I was probably around 10 or 11 when I started ski racing, and I ski raced until I was 15. So I was getting pretty good at ski racing by that point, and it was all about the club and raising money for the club and going on trips for ski races, and stuff like that. But when my buddies came back from a trip down to Oregon with snowboards, I was already a big skater, at the time, and right away it resonated with me. Snowboarding was clearly the path that I wanted to take, and so the year when I turned 15, I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm not doing the ski racing anymore. I'm going to do snowboarding." And he was like right pissed at me because snowboarding wasn't even allowed when I quit ski racing. And so that was a thing. But then the next year, I was already sponsored by Burton Snowboards. And, Craig Kelly got me sponsored. And the next thing you know, Burton Snowboards had sent me 20 boards, every bit of gear that they had. And I lined up all the boards along the basement wall. And when my dad came home from work, I was like, "Hey, Dad, come check this out." He couldn't believe it because no ski company was sending us racing skis, right? We had no support from the ski industry whatsoever. And so I think that when my dad noticed that I was not just sponsored, but they were seriously sponsoring me with all this gear and everything, that's kind of where he changed his tune. But it was touch and go there for a bit. So yeah, I was 10 when I started ski racing. But before that, I was on the swim team. When I was in grade 2, I was on a diving team. And, I was involved in sports from an early age. But as far as snow sports, I was around 10 when I started ski racing.
Okay. Now, I just randomly thought of this, but when you get all these snowboards, I mean, obviously you can only use so many. Are you allowed to sell? Well, once they give them to you, is that your property? You could sell it if you wanted to? What's the deal?
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the time, there was a big differentiation between amateur and pro. And so because I was technically an amateur, Burton Snowboards was sending me gear because they couldn't pay me because I wanted to keep my amateur status for some reason. And so, yeah, they would send me out a couple of dozen boards. And there wasn't even snowboard shops at the time in Vancouver. And so I would go down to a windsurf shop and sell the boards on consignment at the windsurf shop. And so it was basically whatever I wanted to do. I would sell a board and then I could go to a snowboard contest, with the money I made from doing it that way. That didn't last too long though. The whole pro amateur thing kind of went away with the Barcelona Dream Team, remember that? And in Spain, Jordan and all those guys competed at the Olympics. And so that was kind of the end of the whole amateur part of things.
Oh, yeah. I love watching the documentaries on my favorite part of the Dream Team stuff was when Charles Barkley was talking about how the girls on the beach were coming out naked and the wives won't let them do it the next day or something. Oh, it made me laugh. That was funny. All right.
Yeah. You got to love Europe, right?
Oh, fuck, man, dude. You got the kids in the car, so we can't get it too much. But man, the beaches. My goodness. My goodness gracious, bro. All right. So what happened first? You getting out of snowboard or you smoking weed? And what happened for the first time each time? And why did you fall in love with each of these things?
Well, I tried weed out a couple of times, when I was in grade 10 or 11. It never really it wasn't around. Obviously, it was illegal and there was some heavy prohibition. So it wasn't nowadays where it's on every corner. But I would probably say when I was 19 or 20, moved to Whistler, and I made friends with a bunch of pro mountain bike racers that were doing epic 100-mile 150-mile rides every day, and they were just waking up and smoking weed, and I'm just for me it was always a party thing or something you did at night after the sun went down. And then there's these pro athletes that I ran into when I moved to Whistler that were having a joint with their coffee in the morning and smoking weed on the chairlift and that sort of thing. And that's when I kind of opened my eyes to the fact that the stigma and the whole stereotype of cannabis wasn't accurate at all. And a lot of these athletes, they were going to bed early, waking up early, doing their sports during the day to the point of exhaustion, back to bed early again. But the one common denominator was they were using cannabis to recover from the day before and to get ready for the next day. So that was kind of the catalyst of it. And then when I got into snowboarding, I was like 15 when I got into snowboarding. I had tried cannabis a couple times, but it wasn't really a thing. And it wasn't until I was around 19 where it really resonated with me on a different level, as far as it not being a recreational thing, but more of a medicinal thing.
Okay. Now, this is a hard right from the thing, but video games. Have you ever been a playable character in a video game?
No.
Oh,
I haven't.
boy.
I haven't. And I think it has to do with the whole like weed thing, because in '98 there's some really prohibition on cannabis, and that was when the X Games were born, and after '98 when I got back from Nagano, that was just a couple of years before 9/11, and on 9/11 I got put on the no-fly list, and I've been on the no-fly list ever since. So I think the whole stigma and stereotype of cannabis probably kept me from those opportunities that I would have otherwise probably taken advantage of, as far as being a character in a video game or something like that. And it is going away, that there's way more acceptance now than there used to be, but from on a corporate level it's still touch and go. And because of the fact that the States hasn't federally legalized it yet, it's really hard for anybody that's known to be a cannabis enthusiast to get any kind of opportunity, from a big corporate company, including a video game company, which, is counterintuitive, but at the same time, it is what it is.
Right. That's great. So you just said something that intrigues me. You see, you're on the no-fly list and you're still on the no-fly list. Is that something that is that like a thing? Because forgive me, because I've never been on the list. Maybe I have. I don't know. But is that something that the U.S. runs? Is that something you appeal to get off of? What's the deal there?
Yeah, that's a U.S. thing, and so once you're on a no-fly list, you can't really get off it. And so I've got what's called advanced parole. So if I want to come into the States, I have to drive across the border. I'm not allowed to fly into the States. And once if I am going to go, I have to bring this advanced parole paperwork with me. And right away, that brings me into secondary. And that's when they separate you from your family and your kids and the whole 9 yards. And things are just getting more and more kind of complicated at the border every year. So it was one of those things back in the day, like that was 2001 when I got on it. And, it bugged me a lot back then, because I used to travel down to the States all the time for snowboarding and surfing. And my mom lived in Palm Springs, California, and stuff like that. But, it was just something that I had to accept.
That's wild to me. A thing that's wild to me too is that in Canada there was always this stereotype. I don't know, maybe it's true. Man, it's true. They said if you had a DUI, you can't ever get into Canada, right? And
yeah, it goes both ways too. If you're American with a DUI, you can't get into Canada, and if you're a Canadian with a DUI, you can't go to the States either.
They've said that, but I've been to Canada. It's recent. I had a DUI in 2018, and I was in Canada in 2023. And I had 2 DUIs back in 98 and 95, and I went to Canada in 08. I don't know where they checked the list, but man, the Canadian, they must not give them access to a list from Ohio or something, because maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot saying this live in the air, but I've never been not able to get into Canada because of I don't know. It's crazy to me. It's so wild. That's so horrible. And let me say something. For those of you guys who are international and you ever come to the States, I don't know why the border agents are so mean. They are so unnecessarily what's the word? not apprehensive. Maybe that's it, but just so on edge. It's like calm down, border agents, relax. It's gonna be a good time. It is. It is. I don't know why they're so jumpy, man. And it's weird because I don't like that part of it. Doesn't represent my country well, man. I don't like that part. But that's a whole nother. That's a 15-year discussion, right? My goodness.
Yeah, it is. Politics is just politics is politics, and it just gets complicated and convoluted, and it's just better to stay home almost.
Right? Fuck yeah! Right? Just wake me when it's 2030, right? Just like the old the Bender robot, just shut your eyelids and hit a button and sleep up when you're 2030, man. That's horrible. That's great. All right, now back to these video games. You was talking about Shaun White. Have you ever smoked weed with Shaun White or partied with those guys or Sean Palmer, either one of those two? And if not, who parties harder than out of those two guys?
Yeah, actually, neither of those guys smoke weed.
Wow.
Yeah, Sean was more like a whiskey guy.
Okay.
Like Sean Palmer was more of a whiskey guy, and Shaun White is. Yeah, I mean, he probably drinks the odd beer here and there, but he definitely didn't smoke any weed. When I knew Sean when he was young, when he was the new guy on the World Cup tour. He was probably like 14 or something like that when he came on, and he wasn't the Flying Tomato at the time either. He was Mini Shred from his skateboard days, and he made an amazing name for himself, and one of the meanest competitors, like just as far as his talent was concerned. And but yeah, I mean, there's lots of stories from the 80s though of all the pros like doing psychedelics and smoking tons of weed and going on tour. And I know like I was friends with Jake Burton from Burton Snowboards, and I've had dinner at his house before in Vermont with the whole pro team, and I heard lots of stories from back in the day when he was just getting Burton Snowboards started. Parties and crazy stories from being on the road and stuff, but that's just kind of goes hand in hand with the 80s, right?
Oh, 100%. It's man, it's funny that because like back in the 80s, man, a lot of like the amount of weed I smoke even in a couple hours would be like a felony for even like 10, 15, 20 years in jail for getting caught with it back in the 80s. And it's like now it's just like you said, it's in every corner. That's in every room.
Yeah.
I probably got weed. I got weed in the oven right now. We get ready to make edibles. I probably got weed in every single room in the house. And back in the day, that would this is a felony. There's 25 years in jail, intent to distribute. You remember the days when they would charge people with possession for having a bowl? What's up with that, man?
My goodness. Now it's all backwards. Now people are buying weed at the store and buying eggs on the street.
Weed at the store, eggs in the street. Love it, man.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, now speaking of partying, obviously at the Olympics you're not smoking weed, but was there any parties at the Olympics at all? Like you get there and there's a group of international people just drinking or is it just everybody's so focused they don't do nothing? What's the deal there?
Oh, there's lots of partying and extracurricular activities, if you know what I mean, at the Olympics. It's kind of known for your events, and then your events, events over and done with, then it's like relaxed time. And especially with I hung out with the Canadian hockey team, Wayne Gretzky and Eric Lindros and all those guys after, because my event was the first event of the Olympics, so I was done right away. But and so those guys were partying, and there was a lot of booze and stuff back in those days. But I ended up in jail in Japan shortly after my race, and so that was a bit of a downer. And then when they awarded me my medal back and they let me out of jail, literally I was on a plane to Los Angeles the next day to do the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and so I didn't get to really flex very much at the Olympics. I was kind of like shocked and probably had PTSD for like 10 years after that.
So you touched that. So it's basically like, okay, you got opening ceremony, then the first event. You got the first event the next morning. You get the gold medal. Yeah. You get a drug test. 7 hours in a police station, and then the charges dropped. So is your time in the police station like when Homer and Bart were in jail? Did they have like a bunch of origami classes? Like what were you doing? I mean, because I'm curious about Japan, because I mean the things I do in life, and my son really wants to go to Japan. There's a slight chance I might end up in a Japanese jail, but so I need to know like what to expect, what's going on here.
I love Japan so much. It's one of my favorite places to go to, and I really would highly recommend going. What I spent my time doing in jail was being interrogated the whole entire time. And so they were just asking me a lot of questions about cannabis and why, I would use it and how I would use it and all sort of weird questions. I didn't know very much about it, to be honest. And which is interesting because cannabis is like indigenous to Japan. They have their own land race there, and it's been a part of their culture for thousands of years. But ever since I guess the World War II or whatever that was with Japan, and then the US Army base that's there also, they kind of followed the same laws as the US did with regards to prohibition and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a different culture that way, but it's definitely fun to go there. And you're not going to really find any weed very easily, although you can. It's mostly about drinking beer and sake.
Okay.
But the ski resorts are phenomenal. The surf spots are phenomenal. I mean, you could go to the top of a ski resort in Japan and you would literally think you're in Alaska. Like just as far as the eye can see, it's like the steepest snow-covered mountains you've ever seen. And you really don't see that in the media about Japan very much. It's like the extent of their mountain ranges and how much snow they have.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's everything you see is Tokyo, and I definitely want to go on that bullet train though. I want to take a look at the
yeah, the Shinkansen bullet train. It's so killer. It goes 400 kilometers an hour. It's unbelievable.
That's crazy, man. The trains here in Ohio, they don't even go faster than a car on the freeway. So it's it's ridiculous, man. So when you was, I got another before. Let's go back to did they have a guy talking in Japanese? Was like, and then he'd translate to the guy in English, or how did they communicate? How did you communicate with these people? I'm just curious. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, well, we had there was translators, and then like some of the younger Japanese had been to school in North America and knew English, but a lot of times there would be a guide that would be assigned to you, and they would be your translator while you were there, and that's basically the best form of communication that there is. Nowadays, you can get the AI program that you listen to it, and they speak in Japanese, and you hear it in English, and it's all everything's all changed now.
Oh yeah, the Google device. I have a Google device that does that. You just have to talk to it, and it does a real time translation. Oh yeah. Now, were you laughing inside the whole time when you're talking? Or were you a little scared? Or you just didn't know what to expect? What was going
on? I was stressing. Yeah, I was stressing. I kind of knew what the fallout of testing positive for cannabis at the '98 Olympics was going to be. It was so much prohibition at the time. Like the next day when I flew to Los Angeles to do the Tonight Show, they almost didn't even let me in. And they're like, we don't have to. And I'm like, well, I'm doing the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And they're like, okay, we will. And then like 2 weeks later, I flew to New York, and I had been invited on to David Letterman, which I declined to do because I was still pretty paranoid about the whole cannabis thing. And then they didn't want to let me into LaGuardia. And that was literally within a couple of weeks of coming home from Japan. So it was, and then I was 26 at those Olympics, and when I was 16 was the Seoul, Korea Olympics where Ben Johnson tested positive, and he was a Canadian. I remember like how everyone kind of was hating on him so hard back then,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like the next big, you know, story, controversy at the Olympics, and the fallout and just the amount of haters that were out there, was really scary to me. I did get a lot of support. Like even the Prime Minister of Canada called me on the phone and, said it's okay. Don't worry about it. We're proud of you and that sort of thing, which was really helpful. But I still had death threats mailed to me, and there's always going to be that both sides of the spectrum, when it comes to any issue. And, luckily it was pre-internet, like no one even barely had an email at the time. So I wasn't subjected to anything like online, but yeah, it was probably a lot of it was just in my head. Like I just didn't want to be that guy. But what I decided to do was to leverage the opportunity and to use the platform to get out and promote cannabis and try to educate people about cannabis and why, I, as an athlete, used cannabis. And so, yeah, for like the last 25, 26 years since Nagano, I've just been out in front. A lot of people have credited me for legalization in Canada because it created this big national conversation. Like, oh, how is it possible that he even came close to winning the Olympics, let alone win? How did he even get to the Olympics in the first place? And then there's people, had to have the conversation and think about what's prohibition all about in the first place. And what it boiled down to, it had nothing to do with the benefits of cannabis, right? It all had to do with controlling certain groups and certain populations within our society.
Oh yeah.
Rather than the benefits and how cannabis can be beneficial. So it was just, yeah, it was a tough time for me, but I definitely put my neck out on behalf of the cannabis community, not just in Canada but worldwide, like to go onto the news and say that there's a reason for everybody to use cannabis, or that cannabis is friendly, family friendly, or that cannabis is performance enhancing. Like I said, all those things just blew people's minds back in the 90s when I was saying shit like that. And, now it's like, yeah, all those things are plausible. Now people can actually like realize that, yeah, potentially cannabis is performance enhancing and it is family friendly. And it is all those things that I was talking about, but people just weren't ready to hear it back then.
Oh yeah, cannabis will make you so creative, make you so inspired in so many ways, and it has so much potential for pain management and stuff. Like a lot of these guys know, I tell them all the time, like my feet really hurt. Like I get money from the VA for my feet. Some motherfuckers hurt. You know what I mean? It's not but I smoke a little bit of weed. It makes me enough to get through the day where I can walk out and do shit with Jimmy. We can go to the park. We can go to the zoo. We go to the Walmart food dealer. We can have fun with it. There's so many benefits that, and it's a zero-sum game with a lot of it. I mean, if you poll people on an individual basis, I mean, you get the younger generation under 30. I mean, it's like 80%, 85%, 90%. I mean, it might be 100% in some areas who support full legalization. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that in the States we still don't have it, but I think once we do, I mean, it's nationwide. Like we have in Ohio, as you see, I've been smoking, in most states around. The only state around here that doesn't even have it now is Indiana. Well, Indiana, Kentucky, I guess West Virginia too, but like I guess technically Old Michigan's the only one that touches Ohio that's still legal. But yeah, I mean, eventually everything's going to be legal nationwide, and it is kind of mind-boggling. What makes me laugh for us is when people are going through stuff and they would obviously be benefited by weed, but for some reason I smoked weed in 1986 and it didn't make me feel right. It's like, dude, it's a little bit different than that. Now you take half a gummy, you're going to be out like a light, and then they're fucking out with melatonin and mood candles and jazz songs. They just never going to bed. It's like, just take half a gummy, smoke a little blunt. You're going to be fine, man. You're going to go right to bed. Right to
100%.
bed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things about it that are great. Like for me in particular, it was about eating properly. Like when you're flying back and forth from Europe all the time, like I was on the World Cup tour, you're dealing with 2 weeks of jet lag each time you do that. And you're waking up in the middle of the night, but it's morning time, but it's middle of the night for you, or you're eating breakfast, but it's actually dinner time. All those things, I would lose my appetite. And if you're not eating, then you can't train, and you're trying to go to bed when it's morning time back home. And so for me, it was all about eating properly and sleeping properly. If I could do those two things, then I could operate at a high level. And weed really helped me, remind me to eat, for one thing. And secondly, it would put me to sleep when I wasn't tired, at the end of the day. And then you go to bed early because that's what it does. And you wake up early because you went to bed early. And that's all conducive to an athlete's lifestyle. And, so for me, that was primarily what I was using it for. Also, too, like just the whole like isolation, being in Europe back in the 90s, there was no phone. Like literally, like the phone system in Europe was so archaic, and it was kind of before cell phones really started becoming a thing.
Oh yeah.
You would just have to smoke weed just to not go crazy, because you'd be like staying in a farmhouse in Austria somewhere in the middle of nowhere with German TV. The nearest phone is at the post office like 2 miles away. And, you're in your early 20s, and it's just like, what am I doing here? And so a lot of it was just like regulating, like, your mental wellness. And I mean, it really did, in retrospect, when I think about it, it really did have a lot of benefits, and then for me now, like I ended up stopping drinking like 6 or 7 years ago, for no particular reason, really. I mean, I guess I was having a few drinks every day. I didn't really think it was a big problem, but I still stopped drinking anyway, because I'm still kind of active, like as an athlete. I do a lot of road biking. Like I've ridden with Lance Armstrong, I've ridden with Axel Merckx, and like a lot of pro riders, from the Tour de France and stuff. And when I stopped drinking, I lost like 15 pounds like overnight, like literally, like it, like right away I just like shedded the weight. And for cycling, that's like a big deal. So, but
Oh yeah.
weed is great. There's 0 calories, right? You can smoke as much as you want. You're not going to gain an ounce.
That's
And
and the people always ask me, Ross, like because I'm not big, but I'm not like fucking 390 pounds like a lot of these stoners. A lot of people who smoke as much weed as I do, they tend to eat and get. The key is to just not buy snacks. Don't keep snacks around you. Most of the time, I'm out here in the garage. I'm smoking weed. I'm either, talking to somebody on YouTube or whatever. And there's nothing, everything's in the house. So when you get really stoned, you don't want to get up. So you just sit here. And when you do get up, you're gonna just get whatever, and you start to overthink the food. So you're gonna get healthier food, and you just don't buy the unhealthy food. I don't know why. It's based. It really is. A
that's
lot
it.
of people. Oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's just exactly it. I mean, you have to make healthy choices. Weed doesn't make you eat, you know, Doritos. You know, you can have, a bag of beef jerky, right? And it's all about the carbs. That's what it's all about. You can eat as much, meat and vegetables and whatever that you want, and you won't gain any weight. But if you're eating a lot of fries and mashed potatoes and bread and stuff, like I'm eating a quarter pounder with cheese right now.
Oh my goodness.
It's the bun that kills you. The rest of it's fine. It's the bun and the fries that will get you.
Oh yeah.
And the
Oh
only
yeah.
reason why I'm eating it is for when I love the quarter pounder and cheese.
It's a solid
But
burger. It's a solid burger.
I had to pick up my wife from the airport, and my kid just finished a hockey game, and everyone was starving. So, you know, they don't really have like fast food, you know, that's easily accessible, that's healthy. Like, You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, up here. I mean, if you were, it just depends. You could go to we got a lot of gas stations where you could kind of make it healthy if you want to, but end of the day, just I'll just make a sandwich, or I go to the pub a lot. I get a lot of bar, even if I don't drink. I'll go to the pub and just get the pub specials because you get like a burger basket for $7.10 or whatever. And it's just so good, and it's such a better value than because I had this doctor on a while back, and I asked him, I go, Doc, talk about this McDonald's. What would you eat from McDonald's? He goes, I would eat nothing from there. I was like, all right. And since then, I haven't ate any McDonald's. I still eat some fast food every now and then, but it's not too common. It's not. Well, a lot of it right now is that we get the government's shut down, so I'm not getting paid, so I really can't eat fast food. So I'm just eating like ham and cheese and stuff like that. But I mean, if you do it right, you can still eat food pretty cheap. You just gotta pay attention. It's I don't know. I missed the days when you had an actual dollar menu. You can get stuff on the dollar menu. Them days are over, bro. They are over.
Big time. Big time. I mean, 99% of the time I'm eating healthy. And then the odd time I have a McDonald's or a pizza or something, it doesn't matter because the other 99% of the time I'm not eating that stuff. And so I can enjoy a quarter pounder if I want to, because the rest of the time I'm not.
Oh yeah.
It's not what I eat. It's not how I operate on a day to day, but it is what it is. Like all you can do is do the best you can.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's where I think a lot of people go bad. Is they fuck up one time or they'll eat something like, oh my god, I had 2 beers, my sobriety's ruined. It's not ruined. You had 2 beers, you'll be fine. You could go on not drinking. It's like that's why I don't like right. And people are it's all or nothing with everything. Life is a lot of gray areas, man. If you sit out there and you're gonna judge it based on if you all or nothing. If you're really feeling that bad, just have a beer, fucking chill. I don't know. It's I don't know, man. It's weird out there. But how soon after, when you got home from Japan, how soon after, and you got done with Leno and all that, how soon after you got home did you smoke weed again?
Right away.
Nice. Nice.
Right away. I got really baked though, because I was on this like promotional tour. I went straight to Los Angeles, and then I went straight to Toronto, then I went straight to New York. And right away I was hanging out with, people like Dan Aykroyd and, Keith Richards, like you name it. Like I was hanging out with like the craziest people, flying on private jets and stuff. And I was just out of my comfort zone, to be honest. Like I was used to living at my little cabin in Whistler in the woods and going snowboarding. Obviously I spent a lot of time on the snowboard tour, but inside a bubble, right? Like inside the snowboard bubble, where I was used to people recognizing me at the events, but not in like downtown Los Angeles, random Americans recognizing me, especially being a Canadian. Like the amount of notoriety that I experienced at the time was like off the chart. And, I get why, and it was fun. It definitely had its fun things. It was a lot of ups and downs, right? Like there was a lot of good things about it, and then there was a lot of stuff about it that I just, it was harder for me to handle. But I think the good part about it was that there wasn't a lot of money involved. I didn't make any money from it, and I could see that if I had lucrative contracts come to me at the time, that really probably would have messed my life up. And so, being after the Olympics for some time, that kind of kept me more grounded than if like I was already flying around, and hanging out with people like Robbie Robertson and like just you name it, like whoever I was hanging out with. And it was fun and everything, but I was broke. And so it wasn't like, it was just different because I was going there on someone else's dime. I was meeting these people because they were friends with these people, not necessarily me, although they were really nice to me. And, we hung out and, we had a lot of good conversations together, but I was broke. And that was kind of the one thing that I think saved me. And, I definitely had a number of years where I didn't pay my taxes. I didn't get my mail. I was dealing with stuff from having had this experience and also broke. And I look back on it now and it's funny, but it was dead serious at the time because I was embarrassed about it, right? Because everyone knew me, and like even I got audited by the government, because the newspapers reported that I had made roughly $10 million from the whole experience. And I literally paid my own way to go to Nagano for the Canadian team. Like there was no money, man. And then I was embarrassed about it because everyone thought I was a millionaire and treated me that way. Like I was, can I eat that free? Experience kind of, I think, saved me from, disaster, as far as, you know, just being unhinged with money. It was already enough to have that sort of overnight fame, let alone, be loaded at the same time. So, it took me a long time to sort of build up and how I was going to earn a living, because I was so famous at the time. Like, I couldn't just go to a job site and say, hey, do you guys need an extra hand, like building this house or whatever? But as it turned out, I was so broke, I did do that. And I ended up building houses for 10 years. And I operated excavator, I operated Mini X, I operated skid steer. Um, I've probably built like 15 houses over in my life. I built my own house in Whistler. And, I just kind of had to get back to the basics and, you know, find a job and make enough money to at least, pay my bills. And then I had like a divorce, and before that I had girlfriends like take me to court and stuff. They're trying to like leverage like what they thought I had. And it was just out of control, like the whole 9 yards. And so yeah, it was a number of years. And it's all bad, okay? I don't want to paint this really crazy picture, but it was crazy. There was some good things about it. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about people, other people, and the way the world actually works, and not how it seems to work when you're on the World Cup snowboard tour. you know, and and now here I am today. Like, Canada's been into legalization now at a federal level for 7 years. I've got my own cannabis brand. Uh, I've got a pre-roll machine. It's called a Blackbird by Roll Pros. They're made down in Washington, just near where I live here. And, so I'm pumping out pre-rolls for other brands. I'm pumping out pre-rolls for my brand. But it's been a journey to get here. And, cannabis has really been that one common thing over there that kept me grounded. Because cannabis is, right? It's the one
Oh yeah.
thing. It's not like all the other drugs, right? Cannabis will keep you grounded, and it will bring to attention anything in your life that needs to change
Oh
or
yeah.
that you don't like. Where a lot of other substances just sugarcoat everything, and then you just go deeper. And so I think, for me, it's been also a cannabis journey to transition from using it as an athlete to medicating myself with it as a person, dealing with different trauma, from having gone from getting a gold medal around my neck to being in jail the next day. Like, even the guys that test positive for steroids, they don't go to jail, right? So there's a big difference between what I did. And by the way, I got my medal back because weed was not on the list of banned substances in the first place. And so there's a lot of questions about why this even happened to begin with. But at the end of the day, it was like 26 years ago or something like that. And cannabis is legalized in Canada. It's practically going to be legalized in the States like any. I've been hearing Trump's actually in favor of legalizing it on a federal level, which is a surprise to me. But I think if it involves money, then he's all for it. But we'll just have to,
100%.
we'll have to wait and see like how it all plays out. But there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of decades or so, not only in, with weed acceptance and society and culture in general, but in what people are doing in their spare time. Like, it's not all about the vodka commercial anymore. The younger generations barely drinking, they're barely even smoking joints. Like the 20s, they're not really smoking a lot of weed compared to what we were doing. They're not drinking as much as we did when we were 20, and they're buying used bikes and shit and selling shit for $5, where we would just throw it away, right? And if we wanted to buy a new bike, we would buy like the fucking nicest bike there was, and so there's been a shift.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, man, because my kids, I got the one's 27, but the younger ones, they're 15 and 16, and they do not mention anything to me about beer or weed. If they come in and say, Dad, I'd love to smoke with you. I mean, part of the weed thing is they get drug tested at school, so I get that part, but they've never, even in the summer, be like, hey, can I sneak me a beer? None of that. It's so different with this generation, man. It really is, these younger kids coming up.
Yeah.
Well, but they've been through a lot, though. They really have. Say what you want about our generation, every other generation. Being a young kid and going through all those lockdowns and the masking and all that's something that's going to take years to recover from, if ever. Yeah, I mean, that was a fucked up thing we do put a lot of kids through. It really was, my man. Oh my goodness, bro.
That was, yeah. My oldest boy is 16, and so yeah, he's in that zone. Your youngest, and I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old too, and we all went through COVID together. And but luckily, like, we were like into skiing and cycling, and so those were both pandemic friendly sports, and so we didn't really have to change what we did on a daily as much as a lot of other people had to do, especially if you were like living in the city. Like, we kind of live outside the city a little bit. There's a lot of, it's kind of like Napa Valley where I live. There's a lot of vineyards and things like that. So it's great for cycling. We got ski resorts, all that stuff. But not everybody, is in that situation. And I can imagine it was, it was a tough go. I mean, it was tough for us just having been cooped up together for so long. But what are you going to do?
100%. All right, before I forget to ask this question, where do you still have the gold medal, and if so, where do you keep it?
I still have the gold medal, and I keep it in my extract bag. So I have a little shaving kit full of concentrates and concentrates that people give me on a regular. They're growers or producers that they're making live rosin or shatter or whatever it is. Yeah, and that I keep my medal in that bag with all my concentrates, because it's the one bag I don't want to misplace anywhere.
Okay.
So
yeah, I guess the only equivalent I have to that would be the Iraq campaign medal, and I just keep it on a shelf over there. And I really need to get a case for it because it's dusty as fucking here. Because I smoke so much weed, and all the weed dust just goes boom on top of it. So that thing is like covered in dust. I should probably tell the. That's a good Christmas present. I could just tell the family, like, yo, wife, make a box for this. But then I don't want her to get too over the top because she'll get something that from one of those Chinese websites or wherever it'll have big gaudy letters or something. All embarrassing, right?
Yeah. You know what, like for the longest time I kept it in my medal in the shit drawer, you know, like where you put something that where you don't know where to, you don't have anywhere else to put it. So it's like with the screwdrivers and the hair bands from my daughter and the weird dead batteries that no one throws away. And so I was keeping it there for a long time. And you know, I had like, I resented it for a long time too. I was like, fuck, this medal really screwed my life up a little bit. But I mean, over the years, like literally like more than 2 decades have gone by since then, and I've come to terms with it. Like I got this tattoo on my hand. It's a medal that the Italian Federation gave me because I have Italian heritage, and I got that just as therapy. Like, don't ignore your past. You know, like it helps me process the whole experience on a daily basis instead of like just shoving it under the rug or whatever. And then like this one on this side, you can't probably see it in the picture, but that's the logo of my company. It's
Okay.
on my hat. It's on my tooth. That's my cannabis brand. And I got that on my other hand because of the whole cannabis thing and how, you know, there was a lot of haters and there was a lot of supporters, but then there was a lot of like fallout from the whole cannabis thing. And so it just, these two, you know, these two tattoos kind of keep me focused on who I am and where I'm going. And, you know, I've got gold teeth. You probably, I don't know if you can see that.
I see. Yeah, you get the grill,
Yeah,
the Nelly
I,
grill there.
I got a grill. I got gold crowns. And that, you know, that just stems from basically going through a period of my life where I just wanted to give the whole world the finger, you know? And you don't just get gold teeth like on a whim. You know, there's got to be a profound, like, something that you've gone through to be able to, like, have that shit. And I wear them proudly, but it's not like it's not bling to me. You know, to me, it's more like I've been through something, you know, and it represents that. Like, I'm not like you, or I don't mean you, Joe. I
Right, right,
just
right,
mean
right.
like in general. Like, I've gone through stuff. I'm not the same guy I used to be. Um, you know, my life is different than the average person. I've gone through things that the average person has not, you know, can't imagine.
Right.
And you know, flying around with celebrities, but you know, getting my truck repoed at the same time, you know, that sort of thing. Like it
Oh,
was
yeah.
like a, you know, it's just such a weird balance of shit that I've lived through in my life to, you know, get me where I am today. And I wouldn't change anything. You know, I love that I had to go through all that shit. You know, now that I think about it, I'm just pulling up to my shop right now.
Yeah,
We
because I
got
mean, I mean, if I was you and I was thinking back on something, or anybody was like talking shit in the comments, it'd be like lapsing gold medal. I mean, think about how many people just around the world have won it. Not just how many Canadians, period, have won a gold medal. It can't be less than 100. And I mean, that's a very exclusive freaking club, brother. That's a very exclusive club. You know what I mean? There's probably more
yeah.
people. There's probably less people who won a gold medal in Canada, Winter Olympics, and are billionaires in Canada. I'll tell you that. That's pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right about that one. I don't know, but you know what? Like, it's not as cracked up, you know, as what everyone thinks it is, you know, as far as being a pro athlete or winning a
Right.
gold medal at the Olympics. Like, there's a lot of shit that comes with it, even when nothing bad happens. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs, you know, when you win a gold medal and then at the end of the day, at the next morning, you wake up and you're still just eating your shreddies and nothing's really changed. But in your head, you're like, well, I'm a gold medalist and da 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 da. And really, you kind of have to just like forget about it and just carry on with what you were doing before that happened and not change everything. And I don't know, I'm just talking shit, but for that's kind of what I decided was what was important for me, was just to like double down on who I was and what my belief system is, what my values are, and just to don't worry about what everybody else is saying, and don't worry about what they want you to be like. So I had a lot of like people like, shouldn't you be a role model for kids? It's like, no, I'm not a role model for kids. Okay. I wasn't trying to be a role model. Just because I was at the Olympics doesn't mean anything, you know? And that whole pressure, like when I got home, the cops reached out to me like, oh, we want you to go around to the schools and tell people your crazy story so they don't do what you did. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Why don't you stop arresting people for one joint, and then they don't have this ban against them traveling to the US for the rest of their life? Why don't you do that instead? Why is it me that has to do, the dirty work? And so there was a lot of me just coming to terms with like what I believed, and what my values were and are. And to be honest, I just wanted to settle down and have a family, you know? And I've got like my oldest boy, 16, is a championship football player. My daughter is a dancer and a soccer player. My youngest boy is like unreal hockey player. He scored 5 goals today and got 2 assists. And we all ski and we all snowboard. And we got I'm married to an amazing woman, and that's what I wanted, was just to be normal, just like everybody else. And so over the years, that's kind of what I've strived to do. But it comes and goes. Like there's fleeting moments where I feel like I'm normal and this and that, but then there's other times where, the celebrity chef calls me up and they want to do an episode of their show in my living room. And, then there's that. But I appreciate all of it.
That's awesome. Well, you watched though. I mean, right here in the States, we got this gambling epidemic. I don't know if it's epidemic, but like at least it's a gambling advertising epidemic. Like everything you see is like BetMGM and this and that. In 5 years, you mark my words, in 2030, by 2030, the weed advertisements will be just nationwide, just like the gambling advertisements.
Yeah.
You're bad. Ross Rigby act like it's weird. Shut down. It'll be on national. It's inevitable. When there's money, there's a way. It's just inevitable. That's the way this country works, man. All right. Now, how do you consume cannabis overall? Like, list the methods and the rank them. For me, it's like flour, like nothing will ever beat smoking. I love smoking. And then cookies, brownies, stuff like that. Then maybe gummies. And that's kind of about it. I don't really vape much because it makes me cough a lot. I don't really dab. Same thing, makes you cough a lot. So what's your cannabis resume there? How do you take it in?
I usually just smoke joints,
Okay.
And I love rolling joints. I like the meditation of rolling joints. I hit the bong a lot, and I know that's not like a connoisseur kind of way to smoke weed, but I love fucking roasting a bowl, man.
Me too.
I do the odd dab hit here and there, but to be honest, I just like smoking weed in a joint. And I'll show you. I got a pack of my joints right here.
Oh yeah, I'll see this shit. Let me pull you up.
So this is a nice little tin. And if I can we have childproof in Canada, so it's hard to open. It's hard to open, but I'll just show you like through the case. Those are the joints. These are the joints I roll on my machine. They're straight cut, so they look like cigarettes. These ones are the 1/2 gram joints. You don't really see a 1/2 gram joint look that good.
Yeah, I don't do 1/2 gram joints much. It's pretty much all gram joints. All gram.
Yeah.
Joints.
And we can roll anything up to 1 gram. So we do a lot of 1 gram joints.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, this stuff here, this is one strain's called Coco Bamba and the other one's called Critical Condition.
Okay. Man, there's nothing that beats that smell of weed, right? My goodness gracious. You open up the bag and you just inhale, and you're like, that's like Zen, man. That's great Zen. It's awesome, dude. I love it.
We have this one flavor, the Ross Gold, it's called Mango Gold, and it's it's got terpinolene in it. It literally, when you open up the thing, it's literally like you got smashed in the head with a mango. Like that, it has over 5% terps, and it's testing at around like 30%. Like it's like off the charts on all the numbers. But the terpinolene in it just makes you feel. There's no paranoia involved. Like you don't get that anxiety or that heady, but it's the terpenes that really like accent it, that give it that smoothness. So we're looking forward to bringing the brand down to the States as soon as possible. We've had a lot of people out of like Northern California and Humboldt, begging for me to come down there, and they'll supply me with whatever flower I want and stuff like that. So I think it's just a few more years and I'll be ready to get down there. We just gotta play our cards right.
Your retirement, I don't know what the retirement age is in Canada. Here I'm probably gonna retire about 62. But man, it's if the laws go in the right way and the advertising goes in the right way, you could be looking at nice little retirement, because people love that 90s culture, dude. They do. Because the 90s is the last good memory for a lot of people out there. For whatever reason, I don't know. For me, it's like, I didn't peak. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Some people peaked in the 90s. I don't know, but like people love the 90s for whatever reason. So like there's
the 90s. The 90s was like the 60s in a different way, like we had the hippies and stuff and everything, but like the snowboard revolution really started in like the late 80s, early 90s. And that whole, if you were a part of that snowboard like explosion in the late 80s and early 90s, there's nothing like it before that, and there was nothing like it after. I mean, the closest thing to that was like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin. Like that was the closest thing to like what we experienced in the snowboard world. Like just free love and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, that was like the whole 90s thing for us. Like if you can imagine what a snowboard tour would be like in the 90s, it was fucking like that, man. Just like what you think. Like belligerent substance abuse, car accidents, hotels getting thrashed. Like it was off the charts, man. And now that the Olympics is here, it's all parents, and it's all like associations and federations and fucking coaches and technicians tuning your shit and fucking physiotherapists and lawyers on the team and everything. Like things have changed. It's not like the 90s will never. There's probably going to be another thing like the 90s, but we don't know what it is. It's going to be like a revolt against AI or something, and everyone's going to move back into the mountains. We're all going to move back into the mountains again.
Well, everything is always an overreaction to the previous thing that just happened. So like right now with all the, the AI and push for this and that, there's going to be a huge push for a huge anti-technology backlash. You're going to have a huge, which is for shows like mine, whatever. But I mean, that's why I use AI every now and then for a thumbnail if it's a topic show. But other than that, whatever, man. I don't use AI for questions. It may take longer, but I want to have, if I have somebody up, I'm talking to them. It kind of has a 90s vibe. I mean, the inspiration for my show was Wayne's World in my head. I mean, I love Wayne's World growing up. Love it, and then you see shows like Rogan. So you tend to combine the stuff that over the years and make into a show. So that's how, this kind of thing came about. And then the weed thing just kind of came out of nowhere, really, because I was in the service for like 20 years. I didn't smoke for for 20 years, 95 to 2015. I smoked like a little bit. There was once or twice when I was in and I knew that I wasn't getting tested, and I was fucking lit, drunk as hell, and maybe I hit a joint, but it was nothing, maybe 3-4 times in 20 years, But after I retired, man, it was right when the calves were getting big, and my goodness, I just started smoking. And then they passed a medical right around there time. That was game on after that. And then after that, I was like doing stand up, just little things here and there. And then we had a YouTube show because everybody's doing a podcast, and then the lockdowns hit. And then that's when I started reaching out to celebrities, and I had William Hung from American Idol and Peter McNeely, the boxer, and man, it's been a fucking ride. I love it. All right, let's get some of these questions here because I know these guys like don't want to sit around here me yap. All right, does Ross mountain bike at Whistler?
Yeah, I actually started mountain biking right off the get-go in Whistler before the mountain bike park was even invented. It was all cross country. Like we would ride up the hills and then go down back in the day. I'm a huge mountain biker. I was actually a big motocross guy too. I was racing in hare scrambles and cross country motocross races. That's kind of my passion. Now I have a cart, so I'm karting. I have a race cart, and my passion is driving. I love racing cars. That's I've raced cars and motorcycles. That's really where I want to get to with my company, so I can sponsor my car and sponsor my cart, and just be on the track. I mean, I just love that time attack. It just kind of reinvigorates me as far as my youth was concerned. Like ski racing and snowboard racing was always against the clock. I never had the opportunity to race karts or anything growing up, so ski racing and snowboard racing was my go-to. But we live very close to a track called Area 27. Look it up. It's designed by a Canadian Formula One driver, Jacques Villeneuve, and it's a sick facility. We got people coming up from the States in private jets and their semi trucks with their supercars, and it's an insane environment. And that's kind of like I don't have I race like the shitty cars with the big engines.
Hell yeah. All right. Mick wants to know how much gold is in the medal. I heard over here every country puts a different amount in. Britt once won one of those fake gold, it says.
I'm not sure how much gold is in it, but all the ones from Japan were custom made. So there was inlays of mountains that were made with gold dust, and everyone had different mountains and a different design in it. So that was cool. It was also the first year they put the sport on the medal. So mine has a little tiny snowboard racer on it. So that was cool. I did bite it for a picture one time and dented it with my tooth. So there's a certain amount of gold in it. But yeah, I haven't actually. I did a thing, Drake the rapper. He's got a clothing company. Yeah, his clothing company is called OVO, October's Very Own. I did a photo shoot for Drake in LA a couple of years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic, and I had to use my fucking paperwork to get in. And the night before the photo shoot, they're like, "Yeah, they want to re-gold your medal because it'd been tarnished from so many people." I'm like, I don't know if I can like let you take this medal from me. And they're like, "Don't worry, we deal with all like the celebrities, like shit that's worth $1 million. We do that shit." Fuck man, the medal came back the next morning, like unbelievable looking. And like I said, there was custom things in the medal that weren't gold, and everything was perfect, just like the day I got it. It was unreal.
Nice.
So anyway, that was cool.
Hell yeah. All right. Now, have you ever been to Ellicottville, North Carolina, New York? Sorry, Holiday Valley. And do you have any spots in the States that are super fun for you? And was there ever a spot that was maybe less than welcoming in the States?
I love going to the States. So I used to love going to the States. California was like a big dream for me growing up. The whole California lifestyle. Colorado is kind of like Breckenridge, like where snowboarding was kind of born. That whole scene. I love the ski scene and the snowboard scene in Colorado. Being in Vermont I love Vermont. Vermont's kind of like Canada in the States, as far as, from my perspective. It's just like hometown cooking, like there's all cottages in the woods and stuff. And the whole weed scene is thick in Vermont. I love it there.
Oh, yeah. The Green Mountain Boys. When I was in the Guard, they're because Vermont, I think is French for Green Mountain. So their Guard unit was called the Green Mountain Boys. I always thought that was the coolest name.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
I was jealous those guys. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. A couple of silly questions, and we'll get you out of here, man. Or before we get into some silliness, plug all your stuff that you're doing, like all your brands, if you got any schools or anything like that. Plug everything that you do physically on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, cool. So where I'm parked right now is my shop. I don't know if you can see that. That's my company, Straight Roll. We make straight roll joints, and you can click that QR code. And so we're producing right now for a number of micro craft producers in British Columbia. I have my own brand called Ross's Gold. We're down to like just the mango gold right now. We're sold out. There's a strike in Canada right now, so they closed all the cannabis outlets. But anyways, yeah, we're rocking the cannabis scene hard right now. So I kind of figured out that it's in the picks and shovels, right? Like having the brand is cool and stuff, but there's not a lot of money. There's not a big margin. And so I figured out it's better to get involved in the picks and shovels. So I bought myself this pre-roll machine. It was like 200 grand. I'm producing joints for all these different I make way more money making joints for other people than I do for myself.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's kind of my thing. So yeah, Ross Gold and straight roll.
Well, people always tell me it's funny because I talk about weed a lot, obviously, because I'm a fucking pothead. But like they always get, oh, yeah, I'm gonna get into growing. I'm like, the money is not gonna be in growing. There's corporations, there's people who got
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of acres, and they're just waiting for the second for it's legalized federally. They're gonna have it's gonna be the cultivation is gonna be corporate. There'll be niche things, but the cultivation is inevitably going to be corporate and capitalist society. I always equate it to the gold rush. The people who made the money in the gold rush, Ross, weren't the people out there mining the rivers. It was the people.
No, they were selling the picks and shovels.
Yep,
And that's exactly right. And my dad's a gold exploration. That's what he does is he looks for gold mines, and he's found several gold mines. He's in the Canadian Hall of Fame for mining, but you're exactly right. It's all about picks and shovels, selling the rolling papers to the companies that make the joints, and making the joints themselves is where it's at for me right now. So yeah, it's been a process. Like there was a lot. I had visions of grandeur when legalization came, and we're staying away from those big corporate companies. We are dealing in a niche market with the small craft producers, and that's where we will stay there. But I'm really passionate about cannabis in so many different ways. Like not only how it helped me, but how it can help other people. And I guess the other thing I wanted to promote would be my Instagram page. It's Ross Rebagliati with the number 98 at the end. So if you could put that out there, it would be awesome. My cannabis brand, it's Ross Gold Cannabis. You can find that on Instagram too. And yeah, if you want to see some sick weed pornography, go to Ross Rebagliati 98. The corporate one for Ross's Gold, we have to be really careful about what we post on it. But my personal one is a free for all. Go check out Ross Rebagliati 98, and yeah, it's all like just killer weed shit and a few snowboard shit in between.
That's awesome, man. All right, couple really silly questions, and we'll get you out of here, brother. Appreciate it, man. This has been awesome, dude. This is awesome. We got deep, and it's awesome, man. I love it. I love. We didn't talk at all.
I gotta go pretty soon because I got 20 pounds of weed to grind right now.
Oh, 100%, 100%. All right, well, I'll just ask two quick questions, and we'll roll you. Actually, three. Who are the three most famous people, in your opinion, you have met in your entire life?
Probably Dan Aykroyd, Keith Richards. Who else? Robbie Robertson. I taught Conan O'Brien how to snowboard. I was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Those are probably like some of the top. Mick Jagger. Those are probably some of the top. A few supermodels here and there in between, but just kind of like the old school like celebrities that I it was from my era, our era, but yeah, I mean, and guys like Lance Armstrong, I had the privilege of cycling with Lance and other guys like Axel. I mentioned Axel Merckx. Like his dad was like the best all-time pro cyclist in history. So that was Wayne Gretzky, of course. I knew Wayne, and he's a great guy. So yeah, those are some of like the top names I can think of right now.
Hell yeah! I tried getting Wayne on the show there. I don't think his agents showed it to him. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what it. Yeah, I don't discount my place in the world, Ross. I know. I'm the guy in the garage. I'm not. That's the thing, man. You gotta do it for fun. If you're not doing it for fun, then why the fuck you here? Too many people out here. You can tell in 2 seconds they're fake as shit. They're just doing it for some kind of corporate thing. This is literally my hobby. I'm a made man. I'll be a made man until I retire. I'm just out here having fun, brother. All right, 100%. Beatles or Queen? Who would you pick? Beatles or Queen? Who would you pick out of those two bands?
Beatles. Not to say anything bad about Queen, but just the Beatles, man.
Oh yeah, transcendent, brother, transcendent. All right, what is something you haven't done yet? You are sure you will do by the time you are 60, And what is your life advice for your future self?
Oh man. Well, probably what I haven't done that I want to do is I just need a vacation. I got to get out somewhere and go surfing for a few months or something like that. I really want to get into like the Paris Dakar, like the rally motorcycle racing. That's something that I've always been passionate about, doing like the Baja 500 or the Baja 1000 or something like that. So that's a bucket list item for me. I've surfed all around the world. I've had my share of enormous telephone pole size waves. I've done everything in snowboarding that you can do, basically, and I love snowboarding, but it's been there, done that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, and then future self, just I don't even know, just keep on keeping on.
Hell yeah, and party on, Wayne. Party on fucking Girth. Hell yeah, brother. All right, I'd like to thank Mr. Ross Rebagliati for joining the show. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace, brother. You have a good day, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
All right. Peace.